All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. So tonight we're going to be talking about the Washington Commanders free agency. Now, week 2 just began earlier today, but they had a very active first week. Guys like Frankie Louvu, Bobby Wagner, all the way down to Marcus Mariota. But I do just want to say, Adam Peters, I think, in my opinion, has done a phenomenal job. And obviously, they go out there and they hire Dan Quinn as their head coach. You go out there, you get Cliff Kingsbury as your offensive coordinator. You have the second pick in the draft, Jaden Daniels or Drake Mays, looking like they're going to be the starting QB for the Washington Commanders next season. We just saw Sam Howell actually get traded a couple of days ago. He got the short end of the stick, but it is what it is. There's a new regime. There's new ownership. There's new everything, new management. There's just every new thing is coming into Washington. And I think they're doing a really good job. And I think they're setting the precedent. And I think they're setting a really strong tone. And I don't really understand some of the pessimism that I've seen, not Commanders fans, but, random NFL fans saying, they're just signing like, old dudes on 1-year contracts or like borderline depth players, borderline starters. And I think I just don't think that's the case. So I have an article here from the Commanders Wire that I'm going to be going down the list. They went and graded every single free agent that's been picked up so far. We're going to talk about more of them in depth, some of them very, very briefly. Before we get into it, if you guys enjoy it, hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. We got a ton of Commanders videos coming out to you guys, all free agency, all off season. So if you try and get this video to 250 likes, that would mean the absolute world to me. Now, Zach Ertz and Marcus Mariota, I don't really have too much firm opinions on there. I don't think Washington's anywhere close to being done at the tight end market, whether that's free agency or whether that's in the draft. They did end up cutting Logan Thomas, and I think Logan Thomas was perfectly fine, but I do just want a little bit more pop. I want a little bit more zip at that tight end position. Once again, as we know, there's just a new regime in town, and they're going to go out there. They're going to get their guys. They're getting a lot of familiar faces, and it's hard to not like that. Zach Ertz, Marcus Mariota, not the craziest names to pick up in free agency. So Doris Armstrong, defensive end out of the Dallas Cowboys. I think, 16 sacks over the past 2 seasons. If he gives you anything close to that, like he did in those 2 seasons, 16 sacks over 2 years, like who's not gonna take that? You lost Montez Sweat at the trade deadline. You lost Chase Young at the trade deadline. I would still anticipate it's not like this crazy, deep, talented defensive end draft reportedly, but I wouldn't be surprised if they, pick up. I actually would assume they're going to pick up some type of edge rusher through the draft. But Doris Armstrong, and I think a lot of these players are good, talented players that were a little bit lower in depth charts of really good teams. The Dallas Cowboys have one of the best defenses in the National Football League, and I do think a couple of these players are going to hit, and a couple of these players are going to pop and turn into stars. And it would not surprise me if it was Doris Armstrong from the Dallas Cowboys. Now, Tyler Biadasz, you just got a star center. Sam Howell was sacked an NFL record amount of times last season. Obviously, Sam Howell's pocket presence was also a big reason for that. But you needed somebody, and you needed somebody at the center position, the most important spot on the offensive line. And you went out there and you got him. You got somebody who's familiar with the division. You went out there, you got somebody with 3 years. He does everything well. It's a phenomenal signing. It's an A+ move, in my opinion. Now, Frankie Louvu is somebody I'm really excited about. He's got connections to Dan Quinn. He's got connections to Adam Peters. You picked him up, one of these guys on a 3-year contracts. Like I was just mentioning, some naysayers are saying, Austin Eckler, 2-year contract. What are these guys doing? Bobby Wagner, 1-year deal, blah, blah, blah. Frankie Louvu coming on over from the Carolina Panthers. I look at this revamped linebacker room, especially with the pickup of OG veteran Bobby Wagner, and I just absolutely love it. I think he's an ascending star player, and he's high up on my list of one of these new Commander free agents that I think can be turned into a star. He can play into coverage. He can blitz the passer. He's a good leader. You're going to like Frankie Louvu a lot. Now, Austin Eckler got a lot of backlash. There was like that viral tweet from, earlier in the season. I think maybe it was against Miami or somebody, or no, I think it was against my Green Bay Packers, where he was running really slow and, people were calling him washed and all of that bad stuff. But at the end of the day, 2 years for Austin Eckler, 30 years old. He's not too old. He's still in the prime of his athletic career. I don't know why this would be bad. We're going to pair him up with a couple of talented running backs in the RB room. He can catch, he can run, he can block. And 2 years ago, he had a career season. Unfortunately did get injured last year, but I do think it's this high upside player who, at the very least, worst case scenario, is going to give you a very decent production. So I really like that move. I never really understood some of the pessimism that I see with that. Now, Nick Allegretti, just continuing to bolster those offensive line, continue to bolster your offensive trenches. You really can't go wrong there. 5-year veteran. He's played bunch. He's got a bunch of starts, and yeah, you just really can't go wrong there. Same thing with Colin Farrell from the San Francisco 49ers, used to play with the Raiders, former first-round pick. I just don't think he's ever really had a fair opportunity, which sounds weird to say. I think the Raiders just reached like they have done in the last 10 years. It feels like anytime they have a first round pick. But yeah, I think Colin Farrell is perfectly fine rotational depth player who's going to get you some sacks. He's going to hit the quarterback. He's going to stop the run. He's going to do his job. Marcus Mariota, not much of an opinion there. I don't really know what they were doing with it. But once again, I'm not Adam Peters. He is versatile. He's been all across the league. I don't think you can really go wrong with having a voice like that in the locker room for a rookie quarterback. Dante Fowler, also from the Dallas Cowboys. I really like this Dan Quinn guy. You're starting to notice the trend of Adam Peters, Dan Quinn, a lot of familiarity in the building. It's going to go a very long way. It's going to help ease in your new players. It's going to help create a new culture over in Washington. I really like that pickup as well. Moving on. Well, Jeremy Chin, I actually really love this pick. We talked about it in our first, post Commanders free agency video. He had a really interesting career thus far. I think a little underrated. I think a little undercovered, much like many players on the Carolina Panthers. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. It's a 1-year deal. The money's not bad. I don't think you can go wrong there. They also re-signed Jeremy Reeves. A beautiful move. I think that caught a lot of people by surprise. I know they lost guys like Fuller and Curl on the defensive side of things, but once again, there's new people in the building. There's going to be a lot of new faces coming in. Now, finally, we have Bobby Wagner. Phenomenal move. He had like 183 total tackles last year with Seattle. I get it. He's a little bit on the older side, but he's a leader. He's a culture setter. He's a great veteran presence. He's a great veteran leader to have on your young new team. So all in all, man, Washington, I think, has done a phenomenal job. I don't think they're done, and the draft isn't even here. And whoever they select at pick number 2, Adam Peters, that's going to be his guy. Who knows? Maybe they could even still come away with Caleb Williams, although I do think that's off the table with the Justin Fields trade. That's it for me. Hit that like button, hit that sub button for daily NFL content. But most importantly, guys, let me know your thoughts on these moves down below. And also let me know any thoughts you would like them to do or any pickups you would like them to do as well.